Tarpanaya Prachara Ajanulambito Bujo Konako Vadadato Sankirtanaya Kapitaro Kamlaya Taksho Vishwambro Dvidoyo Yuvidama Palu Vande Jagatpya Karo Karunavatarao Anandalilamaya Vigrahaya Himam Nivasya Vishundaraya Tasmai Mahapremanashupradaya Shri Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Kasturi Tilakamalat Patalinam Bhaksam Sararena Kopnigam Karavenu Karakankanam Sava Angahari Chandranam Sulalitam Kanta Muktavali Rajastyo Parivesito Vijayate Gopala Chudamani Eshi Shama Sundara Shikara Shekara Smiraha Sumili Manohara Garikara Sikamama Kripanadi Sophia Charana Kinkarim Kuru Tavai Vasmi Najivami Toya Vina Iti Vigyayadade Tvam Naimam Charanam Tikam Yatkin Krishu Bausa Kaluka Kavani Nitaparasya Purusha Shakandamali Tasya Kadara Sadidi Visupanujas Tatyeli Kunja Bhavanangana Marajini Shama Vajami Radha Ravinda Netram Swarayana Madhura Smitasham Vadhami Radha Karuna Varajam Tato Manasti Gati Nakapi Pakita Vahina Yapurana Tvam Sharanam Prapana Vrindi Namaste Charanaravindam Kanaka Jaladagatru Nila Saubhagya Netro Vrigumarvaravaro Malati Kundamalu Tarana Tarana Vesho Nilapitambaresho Smarani Nivriti Nikunje Narika Krishna Chandro Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaibhacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Dandavat Pranam. So today we thought of trying to one Sunday in a month try to come to the temple to do service to Gurudev's community here. Of course, during the pandemic or whatever, so many Zoom classes and everything started. And so one devotee in Cleveland, Parvati Didi, she started a beginner's sort of Zoom class. But that was, 2 years ago or something? So it started out to be only 10-week session, but then it's been going on for 2 years. And now it's past the, sort of beginning, so it's like a weekly class. So I don't really like to miss it, because this is the only chance sometimes for devotees who live in all different places to be on, and it, accommodates that. So, but also we thought it's good because it gives other people on the Zoom a chance also to have an opportunity to give the class, obviously. So I think it's a good thing. So we're trying to work it out so it works out like that. But today we're having Ishtagoshti, using my Monday night class on the phone conference is also Ishtagoshti style. It gives devotees a chance to ask questions or have discussions. Whatever I cannot answer, we can try to look it up, or I'll try to research it at some point, or perhaps because of Chutananda Prabhu or others are here, or the ladies are here, or somebody, Arjun Prabhu, yourself, your wife may know, and it can be answered that way. So that's the idea, that we could do that. Of course, so many practical questions are also good, so they don't have to just be philosophical questions, because really there's no difference between philosophy and bhakti. If they still find that there's a difference between philosophy and bhakti, it means you haven't synthesized the two yet. So you're working in a dual space, so to speak, right? Whatever you understood philosophically, that should become spoke. Spoke means like, if you say a word, there's sometimes a spoke automatic. Like if I say table, right, immediately in your chitta comes the table, right? So it's like a spoke. It's not, if I just said the word table, and even if you spelled out the letters, if a person didn't understand what this was, it wouldn't come as a spoke. So spoke means when you hear a word, the word translates into into a realization on your chitta. So similarly, all of the elements of our philosophical arrangement, all the verses and all the sastras, everything, when you hear them, you could hear the akshara, means the letters, you can hear the construction of the words. If you know some Sanskrit or Bengali, I don't speak Bengali at all, I can't read Bengali either. But if you know any Sanskrit or anything, or you see it, the letters and the words, when they combine, they translate into a spot. Means like a concrete imagery in your chitta, right? And that's the first level kind of a realization. Then, when the emotional content of your practicing bhakti synthesizes with that spot, that's called the realization of Vijnana. You know? That's why Jiva Goswami Pad said, hearing means Shravan Duram Anubhuti Bhavati. It means that when you hear something, that spot comes and then actually a realization comes in the heart. That's really hearing. If you hear it, but you don't really, that spot doesn't come, then something is there if you understood it, right? So artha is there, means I understood the meaning. But if no spot is there, because if there's no spot, you cannot get the rahasya, means the mystery or the dhyan of that thing. Right? Like a good example is Guru Astakam, because I'm always giving classes in traveling, if I go someplace for the first time especially or something, because I won't be able to relate the practice to the philosophical thing. So sometimes I'll give talks on Guru Astakam because it's very familiar, it's very familiar to everyone, regardless of what Sangha you belong to. Like everybody obviously doesn't sing Mangalarati song, right? So, but everybody sings Guru Ashtakam. So I explained that if the artha, if you understand what the words mean, what is samsara, what is dhava, etc., you know the meaning of the words, that's one level. Then, if you know the context of the words, because it's a kavya, it's a poetry, so then you have to translate that into what is actually being said, right? Then that's another level. Then a third level is when that context becomes a spoke. Oh, what was the intention of Sri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur Pad? I got that. When that sport comes, then the rahasya means what is the mystery that's here. It means what is the magic that's here that makes transformation. And then what is the dhyan? And then the dhyan is what is the practice. Like if there's no dhyan, it's not really a practice. You understand? You're singing it, but it's not. It hasn't become a practice till it's dhyan. Because bhakti in the sadhak stage is a dhyan, and the dhyan creates an avesh. How do you go to is that? So the dhyan creates an avesh. And that's the whole purpose of bhakti, right? That we want to get an avesh from the practice. If an avesh comes, then that's like the chitta becomes dominated by that prabhav at this point of Sarup Shakti. You understand? And the ultimate thing would be that when I get to the stage of bhav, the actual descent of Sarup Shakti then will come on the chitta. Like a couple of verses after the verse in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Suddha Sattva Visheshatma, Prem Siyangsa Samyava, Buchi Vishittama Sunya, Krisoba Buchite. A couple of verses later, Rupa Goswami describes what happens. So, Avir Bhuya Manovrito Prajayante Swarupatam. Right? Swayam Prakasha Rupopi Basamana Prakashavat. So what happens when Suddha Sattva descends is Avir Bhuya Manovrito. So the chitta is when you see something, your eyes are not actually seeing it. What happens is that you look at something and you're looking at your own chitta. And then the chitta can transform to look like a table. So then the chitta presents to the Atma a table through the intelligence. So forth. You understand what I mean? So it's not like your soul looks out of the eyes and sees the table. Your soul is only looking at the chitta. And the chitta is undergoing, this is what's called chitta vrittis. They're transforming and making the shape of different things, people, even your own body. And you're looking at the chitta, and because the chitta and the Atma have this synthesis, I'm experiencing it. Understand? Because the Atma is not in the material world looking out through the eyeballs or something, right?
So the chitta is seeing it based on all the impressions?
Basamana. Basamana means like everything illuminates on the chitta. Like if you see this table, right? The table, which is the material element, Bashaman, it illuminates on the chitta. The chitta, once it illuminates on the chitta, transforms into that image. You understand? Chitta means consciousness.
translating.
But the chitta is actually a function. So consciousness just gives the idea of something just existing.
Mhm.
But chitta has vritti, that means they have functions.
It's from the sparks.
Mhm.
The action.
They actually transform and undergo transformations and stuff, right? So the chitta then transforms this thing and presents it to the mind, or presents it to the intelligence. The intelligence, by previous impressions, identifies it. It's a table. Then the mind does acceptance and reject it. Is this any use to us today? Perhaps if you put some halava and everything on it. So the mind doesn't do that part. The mind only determines, we don't really have any use for this thing right now. Yeah, you know what I mean? So no, it gives the no. You understand? Now, if the table is full of all kinds of prasad, then the mind accepts it because the mind's accepting the prasad. Understand it? And say, okay. You understand? So then the mind, this is agreeable. You understand? So that's what's happening. And then the soul has the vicarious experience of enjoying or suffering or whatever the case might be. Understand? So, Avir Bhuya Manobrito, that when Swarup Shakti descends, it takes over the chitta. Vrajante Swarupatam. So it takes over the chitta itself and becomes one with it. You understand? What is this? Swayam Prakash. So it's self-illuminating. It's not coming from you. This is the meaning of the last line in that verse. Swayam Prakasha Rupa Api Basamana Prakashava. So Basaman means that the chitta has been used to the habit of what I just described. So when bhav appears, it seems like it came from the jiva. You understand this? Basamana Prakashava. Even though, actually, Swayam Prakash means it came from Swarup Shakti.
So when we see the table, it's coming from us. And our
No, it's coming from the
intelligence-
three modes of nature. Understand? The
And
modes
our
of nature on the
intelligence-
chitta.
Our intelligence perceives everything?
No, so what happens is the modes of nature. That's why the Bhagavad Gita verse, that verse is in Prakriti Kriyamanani Gunai Kamani Savasha. Ahamkara Vimudatma. Ahamkara is making us think, yeah, I saw it. I did it. Right? But then Bhagavad Gita says that the living entity really does nothing. Everything is going on by the modes of nature. So the modes of nature making the presentations on the chitta, and the jiva is, by the experience of relation to the chitta, vicariously experiencing it. So the jiva is not really doing anything. Understand? So ahamkara vimudatma, but you think you are. So similarly, when Swarup Shakti descends, Swayam Prakasha Rupi, Basamana Prakashavad. Basamana Prakashavad means, it's this thing manifests. That's why there's always the talk like, yes, it'll awaken in your heart, it'll manifest in your heart. Yeah? Because Basamana Prakash, it looks like it came from the jiva. It appears that it came from the nature of the jiva. Haribol. Koroye Udoy. Srila Prabhupada quotes, yeah. That like rises in the heart. Understand? Or even, Prakash means it manifests. Right? Nityasirasa Bhavasha Prakritam Riddhi Sajita. It manifested in the heart. Even the word Avir Bhuya means, it kind of indicates descent because Swarup Shakti comes from the Nitya Parikars. You understand? But Avir Bhuya in Sanskrit also means something that comes forward or manifests itself. So, Okay, first question.
Yeah, I hope it's okay.
Yes,
to
yeah.
answer what the question is.
Yeah.
Kind of connected to something you said earlier, Prabhu. My question is, I feel like I read or heard that Srila Gurudev said he wants all of his followers to be able to speak and give some harikatha, but not everyone is gonna be scholarly and good at memorizing verses and all of this. So how can we become better at this if we're not naturally inclined to that or good at it?
So the question is that Didi is asking that Srila Gurudev has mentioned he wants all of his disciples to be able to do service to Harikatha of our Guru Vargas. But not everybody has a natural inclination for speaking and this thing and that. So how do we accomplish, fulfilling Gurudev's order if that's not your natural inclination, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things is that the Harikatha is not really coming from the individual person, right? If you ask me on any given day, oh, Prabhuji, what is that verse? I may not be able to remember it. If I'm serving Harikatha at the time of doing service, then Gurudev will inspire in the heart, oh, here's this, that, this will link to this does that, this, that. You understand? So everything is actually only Gurudev Kripa. So it's not really the person speaking. I had that experience in North Carolina. Srila Gurudev, because of health, he could not attend that festival, so he was in Houston. So Gurudev called to ask me how the festival was going, because we were putting on the festival in North Carolina. So I was on the phone, I had it just on regular, and I was talking to Srila Gurudev and everything. Srila Gurudev said, so how's everything going? How's the katha going? So I said, oh, Srila Gurudev is very nice. So-and-so Maharaj spoke, so-and-so Prabhu spoke, so-and-so Didi spoke. So we said, oh, who's speaking? So then I said, so-and-so Maharaj, so-and-so Prabhu, so-and-so Didi. She said, no, but who's speaking? So I put it on the speakerphone, and Gajahanta Prabhu. Understand? So they're only echoing me. I'm speaking. So I guess Gurudev was making a point to me too.
Yeah. And
At the
everyone
time.
liked that too. That festival was amazing.
Yeah.
It was.
It was like he definitely was there.
Yes,
Mhm.
it was.
That was nice.
Yeah, after the first
Small.
few Back to Godheads
Fine,
came
fine.
out, after the we said, Prabhupada, would you, Swamiji, would you write an article? Editor-in-chief usually has a page. And he said, are all your articles based on what I have told you? I said, yes. He said, then I write all the articles.
Yeah.
But there are very simple things that you can tell the public and be appreciative. I once, in the very beginning, I would just explain the cover of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Krishna Loka, and he expands, and then there's expands into Mahavishnu, and he expands again into each universe, and then expands again into every single thing, and into our heart, and into every, and the people, I don't understand it, but that is fantastic. And you can just talk like that.
So the other thing is also to, if that is a desire to serve Srila Gurudev's Harikatha, we can't think that Gurudev won't give the necessary potency or energy to do that, right? Sometimes Gurudev is given direct order. I want you to travel, I want you to preach, so forth, like Gurudev told many years ago, that my wife should help me and I should travel and preach and so forth and so on. So under that order, that desire is there. So Gurudev facilitates, oh, okay, I'll make the arrangements for what to speak, when to speak, how to speak it, this thing, that thing. You understand? So whenever I go any place, I never think about that I'll have to speak something. Plus, you can't have any sort of personal interest, also attachment because if there's any sense of egoism there, then the egoism will get in the way because, suppose I make a mistake. Because then I'm thinking the Harikatha is mine. You understand? And because it's my Harikatha, I think it was a mistake. No, it's Gurudev's Harikatha. I'm capable of making mistakes. You understand? So then I'll come back and correct it, or somebody in the audience will correct it. And there's no attachment. If you have attachment to wanting a perception, Prabhuji or Didi is very scholarly. Not really. Because if you see real scholars, you understand that most people that we say scholars are not scholars. You gotta think. There are people who can recite all the Veda Sastras. That's why they had names like Dubhe, Chobe, etc. means. Chaptave means he knows all the verses of all the Vedas. So what is that person? If you know 10 verses from Bhagavad Gita, then, and somebody says, scholar, what is that person? And what is Brahaspati? What is Jiva Goswami? Understand? So, it can become another kind of abhiman that somebody takes on. I'm a great kirtaniya, a great scholar, great pujari. And then also, what will happen also, that obfuscates the ability to do the seva genuinely. Understand? Because if I'm doing seva genuinely, I'm an aspirant trying to do the service for Srila Gurudev. Gurudev will give all kripa, all empowerment to do that seva, whatever the seva is. Kirtan, prachar, puja, whatever it might be. And then we can stay in the place of aspiration and anything. Even if in the form of doing the function of Guru, right? In doing the function of Guru, the real thing is, it is a service to Guru Parampara. So if there's an abhiman that I'm Guru, how can you be guru? Because the Abhiman will obfuscate the actual service. You understand? Because we have so many Abhimans. You know, I was a musician, I was before a police officer, I'm married to Mohini. So there's so many Abhimans that exist in the Chitta. So if you just add, in the spiritual context, you start adding Abhimans. I'm a Pujari. Like I remember when we were preaching in Africa, and the first devotees took Diksha, right? Then I traveled for preaching, and when I came back, there was a separate room for Brahmins and another room for devotees who hadn't taken Diksha yet. So I looked on the door, and I couldn't believe it. First of all, and Shanta Maharaj was with me. He was, you know, Mahamantra at that point. But anyway, we came back and we looked, and we said, because we were trying to figure out what, because first I thought, well, maybe something happened, and they moved the Pujari room upstairs. And they were keeping stuff there, so they said Brahmins, like Brahmins only, because the deity stuff is here. So then I called one of the devotees, and he was saying, no, Prabhuji, you know, we just want, so the Brahmins can be together. So, I lost it a little bit, snatched the thing off the door, you know. You know, it's like, what kind of nonsense is this? You understand? You know, it's like people were chanting their, you know, and I'm not going to say it because I did it also, chanting a Gayatri mantra, and then sleeping, you know. Brahmins, yeah. I was in Ghana once, I was preaching, and in Ghana we had our temples on a hill, and, it overlooked, it was a very nice, beautiful place. So I used to go out in the morning and chant my japa out on the veranda upstairs and everything, and then I would chant my Anik there because I could see the sun coming up and everything. So I was chanting Anik one morning, and I was really tired, so I was chanting, and then I don't know what happened, but I woke up and I was going, Hare Krishna, with my japa. Hare Krishna. So anyways. But yeah, so we don't want, point being that any idea of any kind of Abhiman in any category, then Daso Shmi will not become prominent. And if you can't get to the point of pure Daso Shmi, then you cannot get specificity in Dasatva. Means, if you can't understand that I'm Das, how you'll understand I'm in Manjari Bhav, Sakya Bhav, this thing, that thing. Because you have so many Abhimans that are clouding that. So Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he says, Taisishatava Takiya Savara Guru Abhimana Tyaji. May always see that I'm only the servant of my Guru Dev. And may Guru Abhiman stay very, very far away from me. I also heard one time, last thing on this, I saw Guru Gobind Maharaj once he was giving a lecture. And when he was giving the lecture, he was going out heavy. Tasma Guru Papajita, Jigyashashita, this Guru has to be this, that, blah, blah. Right? After he got all Sastra Praman about the quality of Guru, right? It was question and answer. Guru said, so, Srila Gobind Maharaj, so you have that realization like that Guru? He put his head down and said, I have not realized anything about Bhakti.
Wow.
So then I thought, well, wait, so I reconciled my mind, wait, but your Guru, these are your disciples, and you're saying that Guru has to be like this, Guru has to be like that, Guru has to be like this. But then when they ask you, you say, I have not realized anything. So then we could just dismiss, that's just humility. But it wasn't just humility. It was that he had the Abhiman of a Sevak while he's preaching, and the Abhiman of his own Atma, and that humility when he thought of himself. Very deep thing. Understand? Because in the Abhiman, for Seva, preaching boldly, understand? But in self-considered, like, what is it? Yogya to vichara kichu nahi pai tomara karunusar. If I think about myself, I don't have anything. Understand? But if I'm thinking in the service of my Guru Dev, then it thinks I'm a Guru Dev, I'm this, I'm that, etc. Problem was, there were a lot of people who was thinking I was Guru by some kind of external arrangement, appointment. You understand? And that caused Guru Abhiman, that's what caused so many problems. Because if that Abhiman, any Abhiman, what does people Guru Abhiman, if that Abhiman is there, the pure nature of the seva can't go through because you're taking some of the currency. Like if you're doing the seva of Guru, what you're doing essentially is you're taking the currency, which is faith. In Bhakti, the currency is faith. So somebody from hearing Harikatha, so many things, they're investing their faith in you. Like people put money in a bank, you trust the bank, right? So they're putting that money there, right? But if you start to steal the money by enjoying the abhiman of that position, you're not giving everything to Guru Paramparam Bhagavan. You understand? You're taking some to enjoy. It's like somebody makes the plate for Srila Gurudev. The offering comes off, make Srila Gurudev's plate. And, oh, Prabhuji, can you take the plate to Gurudev? Person takes the plate to Gurudev, lifts up the cover, takes kachori or two, this, that. That's that. Is that correct? Same way, if somebody gives faith investment, which is the currency in bhakti, they invest that in you, you can't take one farthing. You cannot take one thing of that. Any other questions?
Yeah. So you heard that the absolute dimension, the sanctum sanctorum of the spiritual world has two parts. Both there's Goloka Vrindavan is there, and also like Swetadeep, Navadvip, Nitya Gaura Lila. And so, at least in the Bhoma Lila, the intimate associates of Radha Krishna, like Rupa Manjari, Rata Manjari, they're coming as Raghunath Das Goswami, Rupa Goswami Pad. In Bhoma Lila, they're doing like some naimitic specialty. They're writing, they're doing something that's like for the mission, like Acharya Lila. But in the Nitya Lila, in one side, Rupa Manjari will have her nishtas to Radhika, serving to Radhika. And then there's so much attraction, appreciation for Mahaprabhu because, now the Swamini is there, their Swamini is there in the form of, now Krishna has become completely, Anushila, completely, Gauranga Sundar is like maximum of that. So he wins the loyalty and attraction of those who are normally to Radhika's side. So those who are normally in Krishna Lila, who have Radha Nishta, or Manjari Gan, Saki Gan, in the Nitya Lila of Gauranga Sundar, are they at the service of their Swamini in the form of the Bhav in the heart of Gauranga, or are they serving Gadadhar in service to Gauranga? Where is their Nishta, their Radha Nishta expressed in Gaura Lila? To Gauranga or to Gadadhar, or how is that?
In Gaura Lila, there is Vaishishta. So the Vaishishta means speciality of Gaura Lila is that it has the ability to magnify the Swarup Bhav of those who come into Gaura Lila. So that Manjari Bhav is not dissipated in the fact that there's Radha and Krishna present. They're serving the fact that Krishna has now become Ekantik. They're serving the fact that Krishna has now surrendered to Radhika. This is their desire in Braj Lila as well. So now they're seeing it in Gaura Lila. That Krishna has, that also they're seeing now that by Krishna having surrendered to the Ashraya Jatiya, everything has become favorable for the ability to give full service. In Braj Lila, there are some checks by the very nature of the Lila. Like the love has to be prachanamukata, it can't be expressed openly. Like the Sangha is durlabha, that means it's difficult to obtain. You understand? But now in Gaura Lila, Krishna having fully surrendered to the Ashraya Jatiya, now Krishna himself is leading the way to show, I'll be a Kantik, I'll surrender to Radhika fully. So now all of the things that were checks in the Braja Lila are removed. Like, now they can have association daily. Radhika can speak openly about her love in the form of the Bhagavatam classes at Tota Gopinath given by Gadadhar. Rup Goswami can write openly, Hangsa Dut, right? Can write openly in Vidagdha Madhav and so many things. So all things can be fully openly expressed. That's what's called Odoja Lila. So they're still serving Radhika in the utmost way. Even Krishna himself is serving Radhika. That's the Vaishishta of Gaura Lila. So their Swarup Bhav doesn't change, it just takes on speciality. That's why Raghunath Das Goswami is writing Shikayate Mama Namostu Namostu Nityam Dashayate Mama Rasostu Rasostu Satyam. He's writing that as Raghunath Das Goswami, I have no desire for your Sakhi Bhav. Understand? I still only have desire for Manjari Bhav. Understand? So even in the Gaura Lila, that sentiment is in a form of practice, so to speak, to show us how to obtain it. Because Gaura Lila also is a Bhajan Lila. It means it's the show, because Mahaprabhu says, Bhakta Bhavangikari, Shikamu Shabhari. I'm going to show everybody how to do bhakti by practicing it myself. So all the associates come and they also practice too to show how it should be done. So they're practicing Manjari Bhav here.
Mm.
So they don't really change. But the inner thing is they're happy to see Krishna. Ah, hey, now you finally got it. Understand? So you surrender to Radhika, that's your best position. Because the best position that the Manjaris see of Krishna is the Dear Lalit Anukul Nayak. And the Radhika is Swadhina Bhatrika Nayika. Sorry. Understand? So Dear Lalit Anukul Nayak means like Krishna standing on the altar. So that posture means he's completely surrendered to Radhika. And Radhika having her hand is giving the okay, yes, because she's in control. It's called Swadhina Bhatrika Nayika. So there are 8 kinds of conditions of Radhika. The topmost position is like this. Understand? This is the meaning of the book Vidagdha Madhav. When Krishna is in Dear Lalit, Anukul Dear Lalit Nayak, he's called Vidagdha. It's written in Ujjwala Mani. Right? What is it? Vidagdha Nava Tarunya Parihasa Visharada. Right? Nischintya Dear Lalita Prayaha Prayasivasa. That when Krishna is in this mood, he is Nischinta means no worries. Everything is all good. You understand? Let's say Parihasa Visharada. And always joking, playing, all their praying vilas, everything like that. And Prayasi Vasa. He comes under the control completely of his Prayasis. Topmost Prayasis, Radhika. So when he's in that mood, he is called Vidagdha Madhav. You understand?
More to the question. So, in the eternal Gaur Lila, where are the Goswamis?
Goswamis also have placed in a Nitya Lila Mahaprabhu. There's one Nitya Lila Mahaprabhu where everybody's doing Sankirtan in the house of Srivas, in their pastimes in the morning. So Ashtaka Lila Mahaprabhu, also Goswami Varga is there. In the Namitic Lila, they manifest the pastimes of meeting at Prayag, etc., and then going to Braj and writing and doing all these things. But in the Nitya
They
Lila,
were never in Navadvip. They were never in the Navadvip.
no, in Puri, they come to Puri. Rupa Goswami comes to Puri. Raghunath Das Goswami, of course, he stays in Puri with Mahaprabhu for 16 years. You understand?
No, but in the Nitya Lila.
Oh, then Nitya Lila, there'll be a Navadvip. We asked the Gurudev one time, does anybody else remember this? That's the Gurudev said, yes, they're in the Nitya Lila Mahaprabhu. They're eternally doing kirtan in the house of Srivas, etc. Gurudev said like that.
And there in the, thank you so
Okay.
much for your response. And it's more than I can catch all at once, you know.
Yeah.
But what I'm particularly interested in is like, if it's even been told, I don't know. But like, also Prabhu was reading like, in Bhoma Lila, the Goswamis will be writing and doing all their service and things. But in Nitya Lila, how are they? Because their swarup is still, you know, iconic nishta to Radhika. Now Krishna is perfect. He's anukul, completely. So he's in his best position, we said. He must be hurting. And so how will they express their nishta to Radhika between Gauranga and Gadadhar? When Gaur and Gadadhar both are there, it's like 2 Radhikas. So where is their nishta?
No. They're not saying like this.
You should have the mic, because no one could really.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that okay?
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry. That was me too. I'm speaking really low. So, I'm sorry. Yeah. So,
What is the center? Those who are in Krishna Lila
They-
are Manjari Swarup, 1 to Radhika. How is their seva in the Nitya Gaura Lila between Gaura and Gadadhar? How do they serve that? Radhika's position, which is now reflected in 2 ways.
because actually all is Radhika's position in Gaur Lila. If Krishna has surrendered to Radhika, the entire Lila is Radhika's position. So all of the kirtan, even the Naimittic Lila, what are they all writing for? What's the goal of the writing?
To bring out her glory.
To bring Radha Dasyam. You understand? So actually the entire Gaur Lila is the manifestation of Radha Dasyam, how to get it, how to practice it, because during the Krishna's Lila, he showed it as an activity. You understand? But in Gaur Lila, he shows it how it's attained. You understand? Because you can't obtain it from Krishna Lila. You can't come from that side. Yata yata Gauravin Padaravinna. you have to go to Goa Lila. So in the Goa Lila, the Radha Dasyam is manifest. So Prem is that Lila. Krishna is the Lila. Mahaprabhu is the Prem Lila. You understand the difference? Like Ramachandra's Lila is called Purushottam Lila. Mariana Purushottam Lila. Krishna is called Lila Purushottam. What is Mahaprabhu's Lila called? Prem Purushottam. So the one second, Dave, I'm coming. So the Prem is the Lila. So Mahaprabhu's Lila is the culmination of what was manifest in Krishna. It's the culmination of that Prem. You understand? That now Krishna has fully become absorbed in Radhika. And always, what is one of the essential things Ujjwala Mani tells of the Manjaris? What is their ultimate desire always to see? Radha and Krishna together. What happens in Gaur Lila?
Together.
Understand? So it's the fulfillment actually of Krishna Lila. How do we know? How do you know it's the fulfillment of Krishna Lila? Krishna told, Purva Vraja Vilasi Eti Navilas. In Krishna Lila, I still was left with 3 desires. Shri Radha Pranay Mahima Kidruso Vani Eva. He's left to understand what is her pranay, how she tastes his maduris, what kind of happiness she experiences, because he doesn't know. But in Krishna Lila, in Gaur Lila, that's fulfilled.
And that's shown position, mellows, and bliss.
Mm-hmm.
That's the position. That's what he wants to know.
He wants to know, her happiness. What is the nature of her pranay? Pranay has special meaning here. And what kind of happiness does she experience from that? He tastes that in Gaur Lila. And all Sakis, Lalita Visakha, Rupa Rati Manjari, Lavanga Manjari, all see that Mahaprabhu has come to this point of being a kantik in absorption to Radhika, and he's serving that mood by trying to taste it himself. Prem Rasni Yaskarite Ashwadan. He's tasting that mood, so they see, he's serving Radhika by trying to taste that mood. And Gadadha is Radhika getting her desires fulfilled. 1. What was Dulabhata in Krishna Lila? Difficulty to meet, no more. Gadadha and Mahaprabhu almost inseparable. Also, Prachana Mukata, their love has to be kept hidden, no more. Now Gadadha through Bhagavatam is telling all about their love. That's why Bhagavatam, the deep mystery of Bhagavatam, it is all the prem mood of Radhika from beginning to end. All the stories that are told in between are just to match the categories of Purana. But the real Upakrama, Upasanghara, beginning, end, and Abhyas, thread, is Radhadasyam. So now here's Radhika herself and Tota Gopinath telling to Krishna, here's how love is, this, that, what have you. And then at nighttime, in the company of Lalita Visakha, he's experiencing it. So Lalita Visakha, see, now you're happy? You understand? So all of Gaur Lila is the fulfillment of every other Lila. Understand? And so in the Nitya Lila of Mahaprabhu, then they're all only experiencing the mood of that same seva in the form of kirtan. Understand? So kirtan, what's this kirtan? Is it the kirtan that's the thing, or is it prem? What's in the kirtan? Chirarattadam swanama prem amritatyudara. In the kirtan is that prem that we're talking about. So Mahaprabhu's Lila, Nitya Lila, is all about that kirtan. We're all experiencing that prem. In the Naimittic Lila, he also invites all the pure devotees of other incarnations, because this is the culmination of their love also. You understand? So in a special way, they can taste now the intensity of Braj Lila. That's the meaning of the verse, Pramara Goparamanam Kamam Ityagamat Pratam, Udava Adayopietam Vajanti Bhagavat Priya.
Then they will get a Braj Swarup, or they just like
Nope.
culminate their
Rupa
own?
Goswami in the commentary particularly says they do not change their Swarup. They taste the intensity of Braj Prem in the Vaishishta of Gaur Lila. It's written in the commentary.
Would it be the same intensity as Uddhava had when...
Headed by Uddhava, because Uddhava, during Brahmara Gita, he saw the intensity of that Prem, but he could not access it. You understand? So it's coming as Paramananda Puri now in Gaur Lila. Now he has the experience in the kirtan of tasting, this is what this is. But they do not change Swarup.
So my question was before...
Also, one other thing is, because somebody asked the question before, there's not like a schizophrenia. Like, who's in Krishna Lila, when they come in Gaur Lila, we're 2 people in here, we're trying to figure out which one. So it's not like a timeshare arrangement. So, Swarup Bade, Abhiman Bade. In whatever Swarup that person is in, the Abhiman is full absorption in that Swarup. So for instance, Rupa Manjari and Rupa Goswami, Swarup Bed, Abhiman Bed. As Rupa Goswami, he's fully immersed in being Rupa Goswami. Understand?
And at the same time, fully immersed in being,
That's what I'm saying. Don't think like that. That Rupa Goswami is fully immersed in being Rupa Goswami.
Okay.
You understand?
And he's
In the
not-
depth of that bhav of that Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari is manifest.
But aren't they manifest at the same time?
No, that's what I'm saying. Don't think of it like, because that's schizophrenic. You understand?
So if there's.
Because that case, you never saw that Rupa Goswami, right? And this was one of the things that had to be cut. There were some philosophical ideas that had to be cut that indicated things like that. Like, because Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari, if you're also practicing, because they came to teach. So if you're practicing and you're so-and-so, then also you're that Manjari. So you sometimes dress like that Manjari, sometimes, you understand? So to stop that, then he said, this is the meaning of the verse, Seva Sadika Rupena Siddha Rupena Chatrihi Tad Bhava Lipsanakara Vraja Lokanusarta. The big debate, argument, controversy was over this last line, Vraja Lokanusarta. Because Rup Kaviraj wrote, Vraja Lokanusarta means absorption in both, completely. From that, some followers of Rupa Kaviraj, he didn't do himself. Some followers of Rupa Kaviraj begin to say, yes, so when I'm in the absorption of my meditation, then I should dress like a Manjari. You understand?
They say Bhaktivinoda Thakur was cooking puris at midnight in Gondrum for Rasalila with his like veil on his head like a gopika.
If he has some absorption like that, like,
It's like Ardhavaya Dasha.
yes.
It's like,
No, not like that. Like he has full absorption. If he's taken his chadar and covered his head, he might be having like full absorption. But in this case, they were actually vacillating between, oh, now I'm in this Manjari bhav, so dressed like a Manjari. Then sometime I'm in my Sadhaka vas, and as a Sadhaka I'm following, so I'm dressing like a Sadhaka. So that thing is not proper. And this is what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur addressed in Ragvartma Chandrika. He was defeating the proposition of Rup Kaviraj. No, this is not it. Vraja Lokanusarta means absorption in your Sadhak group, and then where is your internal absorption? Internal. Understand? So Raghunath Das Goswami, when he was as Bhakti Manjari serving Sri Radhakrishna Yugal, right, and he was eating kheer, right, but it manifested in his Sadhak group, right, the sickness from eating the kheer, but he never changed clothes and did this and did that. You understand? Only internally absorbed. You understand? There's a few historical things too, because when Mahaprabhu was performing his Leela, Swarup Damodar was taking copious notes. So it's called his Kadaj. And he shared the teachings from that Kadaj with different associates of Mahaprabhu. Primarily also with Raghunath Das Goswami, who later shared it at Radhakund with Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. He also shared though with Vikeshwara Pandit. And what he shared with Vikeshwara Pandit, he passed to Dhyanachandra Goswami. Together they wrote Gaur Govind Archan Smaran Padati. So they wrote an external manual for how to practice this. Raghunath Das Goswami, he only wrote how to internally practice this. You understand? Adjust your internal thing and internally it will change. Whereas in the Gaur Govind Archan Smaran Padati, it actually gave literal, at this time do this, say the name of this manjari here, do this like this, do this like this.
Yeah.
So that was fine. It's called a Bahir Pant. It means this is the padati, this is the method of doing Raganuga Sadhan. Understand? Raghunath Das Goswami, what book did he write? Well, so many, but prominent for this thing. Manasiksha. So his emphasis was change your internal arrangement. So he did not say, meditate like this, do this like this, do this like. He said first, Guru Goste Gosale, Shu Sujane, Bur Sugane, etc. Here's how you practice. But he said all of those things relate to internal adjustments for yourself. He didn't indicate you'll have to chant this mantra, then meditate on yourself like this, then do like this, then do like, he didn't write like that. But both systems are valid. But the intersection is that if you do one and not the other, there could be problems. So if you took the Padati and said, okay, so now I'm going to do Raganuga Bhajan, right? So first I will get up in the morning and I will meditate that Swamini has called me, and then Rupa Manjari has called me, and in my form is so-and-so Manjari, I've gone to Rupa Manjari, and so forth, so on, this and that. and then it says I should recite the names of all of the manjaris because you understand? Whereas Raghunath Das Goswami said, Sumantra Sri Namni of Rajanava Yuvadanda Sarane Sada Damahitparatim Akuru Atitaram. Just have unprecedented rati for the mantras that were given by your guru, because in those mantras all these things are there. And for Harinam. So he didn't give a breakdown point by point. He said have unprecedented rati in mantra and Harinam, and it will reveal all of these things internally.
So
Because we could think that Rupa Goswami, he certainly could have written out what Dhyana Chandra Goswami wrote. Now why did Dhyana Chandra Goswami and Gopal Guru Goswami write that then? Because there was somewhere, how will we have a methodology? People wanted to know, what should I do? Right? So they wrote a methodology. Like, we could think, oh, to worship deities, be nice to offer flowers. Yeah, we'll offer incense also. What do you think about water? Yeah, water's cool. You know? So what did they do? They wrote an archan padati. So you do like this, like this, like this, and then when you do the offering, offer it 4 times to the feet, then do 2 times to the body, 3 times to the face, 7 times around the whole. You understand? But the purpose was to give a guideline, because Gurudev often criticized the idea 4 times to the feet. 1, 2, was that 2 or 3? 3, 4. Okay, 2 or 3 to the feet. You understand? So Gurudev kind of criticized, because then dhyan is lost. You understand? Or Gurudev used to say also, Krishna's waiting to take the bow, right? And this is 7, 8, 9, and then I got to do each person. Krishna. Then this one, and then also I got 55 deities on the altar, right? You know? So it becomes a whole thing. So in the inner mood, the dhyan will become prominent and the dhyan will start to dictate what happens. And the padati was meant to be a guideline. Like a Bhutta Suddhi also for chanting. Right? Like we chant Nahavya Pranarapati and the Pitvaishona Sutra. This is Bhutta Suddhi. So in this padati, there's also Bhutta Suddhi, where you can meditate on your internal, that was given by your Gurudev during the time, giving Ekadas Bhav. Giving of Ekadas Bhav didn't mean that you had it. It meant it was your Bhutta Suddhi. So before you do it, you meditate on the details given by your Gurudev about your form. But it was for Bhutta Suddhi to break your material abhiman while you're doing bhajan. Didn't mean that you were that manjari, so forth, so on. Because that's a realization, that's not a conversation. Right? Gurudev, meditate that. Okay, you're suspect manjari. So every morning you wake up and you get all the details of suspect manjari, right? You meditate on them. It was meant to be Bhutta Suddhi, to do bhajan. And so you break the material abhiman. I'm not, Babu Prabhu from my village or whatever. No, I'm this manjari. And Gurudev, by currency of faith, empowers that faith and to meditate like that. And then, Antas Chinta Seva Abhista Tat Upayogi Dehinam. Jiva Goswami has written that by this Antas Chinta means contemplation like this, then Seva Abhista, the ruchi in a particular seva being manifest, Tat Upayogi Dehinam, a suitable body manifest in your perfection to accommodate that.
And you spend years doing this Bhutta Suddhi with this name and this form and this color dress and all this stuff, and then after years you're like, oh, that was just training wheels, that's not it. And you just throw out the whole thing and you have this completely different...
Nope. Because realizations don't work like that. Realizations are not segmented. Your actual swarup will come to you, and then you won't question, oh, but I thought I was this, I thought it... No. And everything will become clear to you, and there won't be a segmented idea. Okay, that must have just been a training exercise. No. Because when you're tasting your actual swarup, there's no consideration that I was something else before. So there is no idea of a timeline contemplation.
It seems like standardized. Like that Archan, Dhyana Goswami's book says, like, my Guru Saki is wearing blue. That means everybody's Guru Saki wears blue. It's like
it's a Bhutta Suddhi. It's obviously to give an idea. Because then you'll hear, he's giving an example there also. He's not saying like that. He's giving an example. Because you'll hear those details from your own Guru. Like everybody took Diksha, you heard from Gurudev what Gurudev told. Right? I can't repeat these things here, but Gurudev tells, at the time of giving Diksha, he gives indication. So, it didn't say Gurudev, didn't say he's wearing blue. You understand? So, what Gurudev told, you'll meditate on that. And the reason that is because realization of Gurudev's Swarup is substantive. In the company of realization of Guru Dev Swarup that's mentioned in the 6th verse of Guru Ashtakam, Nikunja Yunonatike Siddha, etc., you realize your Swarup. You understand? This is the secret of the Guru Ashtakam. That's why it's so deep. All the different stages of bhakti from Shraddha to Bhav are in the first 6 verses. Did you wait 1 second? Because praying. Oh, who? You had?
I think,
Was it Indu?
I'm not sure, but
Indu, was you? You had the question? Okay.
But if it was on his topic, please.
No, it doesn't matter.
yeah, but the thing is, my mind didn't retain what it was I wanted to make.
Yeah, because so many things, man.
So remember when you mentioned that Radha is saying with her hand, she goes like this right here,
Mm-hmm.
and I see Agora doing the same.
Mhm.
Similarity.
The general posture is Ashirvada, giving a blessing.
Uh-huh.
So Mahaprabhu is giving blessing that everybody could take shelter of his lotus feet. So Radhika is doing the same thing. She's giving a blessing to obtain Radhadasa. But she's also giving blessing to Krishna. I'm giving my permission.
Okay.
But by the way, if you could, like the words that you were saying, sometimes I may miss the translation, and then you keep saying that word, and I'm still not getting it. And so, those words that you're saying in Sanskrit, for the sake of people like me, it's helpful to hear the English.
I'm trying to translate into English as much as possible as we're going on.
Yeah.
So just tell me the point that's missing, and then I can go
Okay,
back.
so you were talking about the indication. It's like a 3 or 4 syllable phrase. You were saying it starts with a P something or a B.
Quality?
Huh? What you all were just talking about?
Bhuta Shuddhi?
Huh?
Bhuta Shuddhi?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Bhuta Shuddhi means, I was saying, to break the material abhiman, a mantra is given. Like we normally recite Naham Vipro Narapati Napivashona Sudro. Right? So this verse says, I'm not the Brahmin, not Grahastha, not Vanapras, not Sannyasi. I'm not in any of the ashrams. Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayo Dasha Dasha Anudas. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of gopis. So embedded in that is I'm not anything in this material world that I've been considering myself. And by being Dasa Dasa Anudas indicates Manjari Bhav. You understand? Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayor Dasa Dasa Anudasa. You understand?
Right.
So I am a servant to Radhika, who's servant to her Paramaprishta Sakis like Lalita Visakha, etc. I am a servant to then Rupa Manjari serving under them, and I'm a servant to my Guru Rupa Sakti under that. Understand? So let me to make sure that's clear. So this is called a Bhuta Suddhi. Bhuta means like your material conception. Sud means to clear it. So you're clearing that idea because you don't want to start to do your mantras thinking, I am Mukunda, the wife of Mohini. I'm hoping she's going to make pancakes. Something. You understand? I'm Mukunda. But formerly I was a Kindra, and when I was a Kindra, I played on this album, and they owe me royalties. You understand? So to break that, to break any material abhiman, this verse is recited with absorption. Naham Vipro Nanarapati. Right? I'm not, sannyasi vanaprast. Any Vipro means like Brahman, anything. Right? Gopi Bhartu Pada Kamalayora Dhasa Dhasa Nudas. So now I've established my identity. The specificity of that identity depends on your maturation in bhajan.
But you're breaking it through you're breaking it in the mind, right? Where are you breaking that abhiman?
In the chitta. You understand? The mind only does acceptance and rejection. So the mind, by impressions from practice, is accepting now, okay, he's doing his anit. You understand? He's doing his mantra. Therefore, he doesn't want to have any of these remembrances of this thing, musician, this thing, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want that. So then the mind, if it's become obedient to the impressions from practice, now stops that. You understand? Oh, leave him alone. So then the intelligence, if it gives anything else coming, hey, but what about this? What about that? The mind rejects that. You understand? Where the mind accepts and rejects, and now the mind is rejecting. Don't bother him. You understand?
Wow.
Because the impressions of Bhakti Devi, and who's doing that? Guru Kripa Bhakti Devi is now giving a construct to the mind that don't disturb here. You understand? And then the mind then fixes in the mode of not accepting anything coming outside. That allows the dhyan of your mantra to take place.
And dhyan, that word.
Means meditation.
Okay.
Understand? 1 second, Chaitanya. So it allows then the meditation of the mantra to go on undisturbed. If you somehow or another, because every day will not be, as you're growing, it sometimes there's vacillation because the strength of the impressions are weakened. Especially, let's say you had to do something, you had to go to work, you had to do this. We're still picking up external impressions. So if those external impressions became very prominent in a day, when you sit to do your mantra in the morning, that process will be harder.
Yeah.
Therefore, he's saying, who will not give up everything and go to the bank of Radha Kund and do this, where there's no other impressions? You understand? This is why they're saying, give up and do bhajan. This is the meaning. The meaning is not, I should suddenly become renounced. The meaning is, I want to avoid all these other impressions because they're going to exert their influence. If your practice has been strong for a long time, then the influence of your practice has the ability, because spiritual things dominate material things. Right? That's the proposition. So the spiritual influence, Bhakti Devi, right, her shadow Maya Devi can't exert influence over her. That's why the spiritual world is free from illusion. So then the influence of Bhakti Devi comes and pushes back like a guardianship over the chitta during the time of your mantras. Right? Now you can become absorbed. That creates another impression. You understand? Then this happens every single day. What happens there? These are called impressions. These impressions, Praktanaka Aduniki Chasti Yatsat Bhakti Vasana. These impressions become vasana. Vasana means an impression in the chitta. So now the chitta is full of these impressions. So even in Harinam, when you begin to chant Harinam, right? The difference between chanting, okay, I gotta get through how many, whatever amount of rounds you do, okay, I gotta get through, okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Oh, don't think about that. Don't think about it. The difference will be when there's so many impressions from Harikatha, when there are so many verses in your heart. As soon as you start, like I'm giving you an example. If you play a song from the time of your high school era, your prom, you'll remember that entire prom and the whole event when you hear that song. Because the sound generates the arising of those impressions in the chitta. You understand? So as soon as you hear that song, the whole memory comes back of the time that I was with Susie and Jane, and then we saw Bob, and this, all of that stuff comes up as soon as you hear the song. Right? Even randomly. You're in the car, that song goes, oh, wow. You understand? So in the same way, all of the Praptanik means previous and current, Adunik, impressions come as soon as you start to chant. So if you hear so much Harikatha, and this is why speaking is very important, because if you speak also so much Harikatha, as soon as you begin to take Harinam, those impressions come up first. And they beat the material impressions to the punch. You understand? So they come up and they start dominating. So you're chanting and you start thinking, Iti Venuravam Rajam Savabhuta Manoharam. How Krishna blew his flute off. So this is not, and see, here's the trick. It's not like I'm going to think about this to not think about that. This is its own stimuli. You understand? It's its own swabhavik arrangement. When you're chanting, it will automatically, because this is Radha and Krishna. The chanting is Radha and Krishna. The beads are Radha and Krishna. You understand? You can't chant. Atahashi Krishna Namadi Nabhavadgaramit. You can't chant. So what you're doing is you're subsidized by Gurudev's potency. So now you're serving Harinam. When you go to do the service reciprocates. So then the service says, oh, Iti Venuravam Rajam. Oh, this verse came in the heart. And for 1 hour, all the nuances and dwani of that verse comes in the heart. You understand?
If you're lucky.
Huh? No, but see, here's the thing is it's not you. So it has nothing to do with you. If you were previously having jokes and everything with your friends and you listened to that old album from high school, but you sat down to chant, and your chanting has been very serious for quite some time, those impressions cannot stand up against that. So when you sit down to chant, even though you've been at work all day, even though you were joking with friends. Oh, did you watch the game? Did this, that, blah, blah, blah. Those impressions don't have the power to overcome bhakti. You understand? Lust is the deepest impression in the material world. But bhakti, what is this verse? Bhakti param pratilapya kamam ridrog. You understand? But when how could that be? And this is part of the misconception because people are thinking, I'm first going to purify myself, then I'll be eligible for all these things. But if you could purify yourself, you would have had no problem in the first place. You can. Bhakti is purifying you. But the Goswamis are giving advice. Well, don't do this. Don't have janasanga. Don't associate with worldly people. Don't lose your enthusiasm. Don't do this. Do that. So they're giving you the advice. But is Bhakti dependent on you? Not dependent on you. Bhakti can do anything, anytime it wants. It's Swata Siddha. Understand? But we can't think like that. Well, Bhakti could do anything, so I'm just going to keep getting high. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep doing that. And, you know, I'll take my chances like the lottery to Bhakti. That advice of where Bhakti was meant, because Bhakti is manifest by sadhu. So if you don't take the advice of sadhu, it means you don't want Bhakti. So then Bhakti is shy. I'm not forcing. Understand? First, Gaurangi, then Chaitan Shakti, because she had a Pahani Chaitan.
Well, I think you probably answered. It was about remembering. Like, you know, now we're forgetful of all our previous lives.
Mm-hmm.
So when this, our Swarup is realized, we will have forgotten everything up in, like our relationship with Guru or how, like.
No, the material things in your life, like you can't remember from one life to another. When you obtain your Swarup, material existence itself is wiped out. There's no remembrance because the dominance of who you are actually takes precedence. So it's described, Swena Rupena Abhinas Panchate, and by Baladev Vijayamushbabu. He's giving one verse that when you obtain your siddhi, it is Swena Rupain. Swena Rupain means like yourself has now become tadatmik with that Swarup, so you don't think I was previously someone else. This is the whole thing about the Swarupa of the Jiva issue, that it's always present. It's present in the perfection. You understand? And when you obtain your perfection, it's in Nitya Vartman Kal. So I'm going to explain it because the Sanskrit. Nitya Vartman Kal means, Vartman means right now. Like, means something that's right now. So Nitya Vartman means time right now. You understand? Nitya Vartman Kal, time right now. So when you experience your Swarup, it's experience that I was never not this person. Because the Atma was never something else. Dasabhuti Haryeva Nanyasheva Kadachana. You were never all the various iterations of karmic portfolios you've had over unlimited time. You were never that. Mm-hmm.
So, Chakudana Dilo J.
Janmi Prabhu.
So Gurudev will deliver us birth after birth until we have arrived at the lotus feet, our service.
Yes.
Does that Swarup like happen a baby, or are we coming as right away
after you obtain Bhavavas, you'll be born from the womb of any gopi in Braj, wherever Krishna is performing his Prakat Lila. At that time, you'll have the association of Nitya Siddha, associates of Bhagavan. Then Vastu.
Will Guru be in that? Like,
as your Sakhi, then you'll realize Gurudev is. Yes. You actually recognize Gurudev in this life. It's just that because there's so much of a cloud from previous impressions, you don't think you recognized. You understand this?
No.
Yes. Actually, you recognize Guru when you meet him, internally. Those who don't recognize Guru means they haven't really made genuine connection with Guru yet. You understand? Because you could not be with that Guru, if you could not have genuine relationship with that Guru where the principles of enlightenment in Bhakti are coming, if that was not the same Guru that Narottam Das Thakur is saying. Chakudan Diloye Jamni Jamni Prabhu say, Dibya Gyan Hide Prokashito. Prokashito means like sprinkling, revealing, like gradually revealing. You understand? So the idea here is that over the course of lifetimes, that transcendental realization of your Sarup has been given gradually over courses of lifetimes. Divya Gyan Ride Prokashito. He's been sprinkling, revealing over courses of lifetimes. So when you have some realization, then you can understand, this is my Gurudev. You understand?
So, Guru is one, one in heart, one in Siddhanta.
Mm-hmm.
It's always the same Guru. It's been Srila Gurudev, and from here on in, always. But is it also like if they're
And in your
all
perfection,
one, is it also Srila
no.
Why don't?
So no, Srila Prabhupada will be the Vyasti Guru, manifestation of the principle of Guru for his disciples. We'll have relationship with Srila Prabhupada as a Kanda Guru Tattva and also as Param Gurudev, right? Because we'll see him in the same light as we see Srila Bhakti Praganteshwar, because we're like our Param Gurudev. You understand? So in this Sadak relationship, it will be like that. In the principle of Guru, we will realize our Guru Rupa Sakti at the stage of Asakti going into Bhav. You'll have some realization in Bhav, certainly realization. You'll also then realize all the parikars, which is why it's so important to recite the Jayadwani. That's why we don't recite the Jayadwani by stopping at Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. By you reciting the entire Jayadwani, you'll recognize those persons as Nayana Mani Manjari, as Kamala Manjari, as Rasa Manjari. You understand? Going all the way back. Manjulari. No. Baladevi Devotion Guru, Manjulari?
No, that's
Manjulari, and then Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Vinod Manjari. You understand? Then Champak Manjari. Yes, Narottam Das Thakur. Yeah?
Who's Chakravarti Thakur?
Vinod Manjari.
Also. Good. Where's that? Where's that? I missed that.
How many Sams are there in this world?
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying, like, where is that written? After
Oh,
20
Vinod Manjari?
After 20 years, I missed that somehow.
Yeah. Vinod Manjari. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. Hold it, just one second. Chaitanya Shakti had one.
I'll only ask if someone else didn't have one, because I already asked the question. So
Alright, we'll go to Gord because he didn't ask.
Yeah, I've got a question for you. In the world of the Vaishnavas, since Prabhupada came and introduced Krishna consciousness, there are many have learned Sanskrit and have started to translate some of the they all had to present whatever they wrote, whatever poems, whatever articles, literature, whatever, they had to be submitted to Swarup Damodar to make sure that the right Siddhanta was there, the right mood was there. So in our present day, who is that Swarup Damodar?
That person's Guru. Who's ever translating, writing, whatever, their Guru is for them their vetting process. That's it, because Guru is a Kanda also.
Because I've noticed that the Sanskrit, the words of Sanskrit can have multiple meanings, many, many different layers, just like you said. So we are assuming that this person who's translating the Sanskrit and then writing maybe a purport or their realizations, how are we to know that they have actually understood the true meaning of the Sanskrit? Because, we have many people who are writing things and some say this and some say that, and sometimes there's some controversy.
How do you know that Srila Gurudev or Srila Prabhupada, what they said in Sanskrit and translated is accurate?
How do I know? That's a good question. Well, I see their literature, what they've written. Prabhupada translated many of the scriptures. And when you read them, you sense the potency there, that this is purely being described.
But that could be subjective and relative, but you're saying you're sensing the potency. Somebody sensed this person's potency, somebody sensed that person, so it's relative. So there's only two ways to do it. One is we have to become accomplished ourselves. If you want to study Sanskrit language, very difficult for one. For two, it's not the language itself that's the thing. For instance, Srila Prabhupada translated, what is this verse? Nityasura Krishna Prema Sajakabu Noy Shravanadi Suruchite Koryo Yudoy. If you read the translation of Srila Prabhupada, the entire translation really doesn't match the Bengali part at all.
That's what I noticed.
Right?
I noticed that exactly, and I said, what's going on here?
Srila Prabhupada is doing an anubhav. It's called the bhav anubhav. In other words, he's explaining through the verse the intention of the verse. Now, there's other things to be considered. So, for instance, he says Krishna Prem is already existing in the heart. It doesn't come from any source outside, etc., right? That's what the verse says, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Krishna Prem does not come from any place outside, right? So now think about it. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mul Hoy Sadhu Sangha. What does this verse say? Krishna Bhakti Janma Mul Hoy Sadhu Sangha. The root cause of bhakti is what? Did it come from outside or not?
Yeah.
Then was Srila Prabhupada wrong or not? No. How do you reconcile it?
I don't know.
That's right.
That's my problem.
Therefore, that one thing you could say from today, I'm going to dedicate myself to very deep bhajan to figure this mystery. That will become a complete absorption in your chanting and everything else, because you'll be searching the words, Hare Krishna, 4 hours you'll be meditating on it. How do I solve this? You understand? That's how you become absorbed. So here, Srila Prabhupada is writing, it does not come from outside, because he's echoing the sentiment of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's pushback against the Jat Gosai. The Jat Gosai, they used to say that if you want to obtain your siddhi in the, Jat Gosai means caste Brahmins. It also meant the Pariwars. Pariwars means the lines that came down from Mahaprabhu, like one line from Gadadhar, one line from Advaitacharya, one line from Janavamata, all these different lines they call Pariwars. In there, one person gives initiation, another, and they follow that strictly, right? There was some point in the Pariwars where some corruption came, where the only way for you to get your swarup and your siddhi, you come to us, we'll meditate on it, and we'll give it to you. What began to happen, unscrupulous people began to say, well, also, when you come to me to get it, bring like so much money. Also, if it's any lady, when you have a relationship with me, you'll realize it better. And all, you understand? So from this kind of corruption, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur pointed it out, this is all Prakriti Sahajavad, and he pushed back against it, and he told, listen, where in our bhajan? In Nam. So actually, your Swarup is not coming from this person, it's coming from Swarup Shakti, and Swarup Shakti is prominently embedded in Harinam. So you get your perfection from Harinam. You understand? So he pushed back against that idea. At the same time, the sadhu actually helps to fuel Swarup Shakti in the jiva, to give efficacy to their chanting. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur also written, Krishna say to Mahakrishna Dati Paro Tomaro Sakati Ache. Oh Gurudev, you have the power, you have Krishna, you have the power to give him to me. Therefore, Amitu Kangal, Krishna Krishna Boli, Daya Dava Pache Pache. That's why I'm running after you. You understand? He has the power to give the Swarup Shakti, which subsidizes your Harinam with that Shakti. So Srila Prabhupada is saying, in that regard, as a Bhavanubhav, the meaning of this is that everything you need to obtain bhakti is present in you, and it will be bought out by the sadhu, not given to you by the sadhu. That way nobody can corrupt it. Because if the sadhu is bogus, you can find the genuine sadhu. You understand? But if you only believe, I can only get my siddhi from this Jat Gosai because he's in Nityananda Vams, you understand? Then people are subject to all kind of nonsense. So if you don't get the historical context, everything becomes difficult to understand. Because then you look at Gurudev translating that same verse on page 24 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, he does not say that at all. He gives the opposite. He says, listen, Actually, this Nityasiddha Bhav comes from the eternal associates down to the Jiva. Page 24, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu. Now, Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev, are they of different opinions? No. They're presenting the actual perspectives in different ways. So if you understand why Srila Prabhupada presented, then it makes sense. You understand? Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition. It doesn't come from anyone outside, etc. Yeah.
One can I ask a question? We know you study a lot. So could you share please the proper way to study?
Really, study is Swadhyaya is part of doing sadhana. So you should find something. If you're studying Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, then every day you should read the commentary, so forth, and then pray to Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, Jiva Goswami Pad, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. Oh, please let something come in my heart through the mercy of my Gurudev. And then bas. Because you can't capture it. Like when you go to college. I'm going to cram for the exam, get it all in there. Okay, I got that verse, I can't remember, let me memorize it. I got it. Okay, next one. So you pray, please let the sport of this thing come in my heart. Right? I may not even be able to remember the verse properly. But let this sport come in my heart. I'll understand what is the meaning. And then doing Harinam deeply and doing mantras deeply, then this becomes established in the heart. And then when you want to speak it in service, right? And there is no abhiman there. No pandit abhiman, scholar abhiman, whatever people may tell you, right? Sanatana Goswami said, yeah, everybody says I'm very learned. Now he told Mahaprabhu, oh, they say I'm very learned. But I don't know who I am and what I want. Understand? So you take, anybody will say, this person is scholar, this person is, you take it, that's their affection for you, but you don't take it into your heart. You understand? And then you're doing that, Prabhuji is, Arti, I'm over?
20 minutes more.
20 minutes more?
How much did I?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Go.
So, that time, then when you're chanting, doing everything, a synthesis takes place in the heart. That synthesis is what you want. Between your feeling, between this, that. Then when you're serving the Harikatha by speaking it to someone else, Gurudev comes along with all that Harikatha and sits in your heart, and then Gurudev manifested from your mouth as a service. Yeah? Because other than that, we'd be incapable of doing it. Understand? And that's why we'd also be very careful about critiquing people positively or negatively. You know what I mean? Like, knows every verse in the world. Must be a realized soul. Could be. You can tell. If you have maturation, you could tell. Like praying. Praying, that level of sport involved in the verses is not scholarship. We will look at it as scholarship. It's not scholarship. It's the kripa of Gurudev. No question. Bhakti Sarup Maharaj. Right? That ability to take the Sanskrit language and make it into the clarity of the conceptions of Mahaprabhu is not Sanskrit scholarship. It's the blessing of his Gurudev. Understand? Because how will he make it easily understandable to other people? You understand? He could take Sanskrit, and he's able to break it down in such a way he can make it understandable in the thing that gives you faith in bhakti. But I remember when I was learning some Sanskrit, and I had come back from Africa, and I used to go to the Library of Congress, because in the Library of Congress, they had manuscripts of a lot of Goswami's writings and stuff in D.C. So I would go there, and I could read the Devanagari, but I don't understand Sanskrit grammar. There's no commentary, there's no anything. And the person who was like the librarian, like the curator to take care of all of that, his name was Dr. Thrasher. He was a Sanskrit scholar. And I would ask him, what is the meaning of this word? What is the meaning of that word? But then I would ask him, read this sentence. He would read the sentence to me, and I say, what do you think? I don't know what they mean by this. He said, I don't know what they mean by this. Because he can't understand what Rupa Goswami's intention is.
He has no guidance.
You understand? But he was he wasn't trying to,
I understand.
he was just reading the word. Yeah, this is and this word in Sanskrit means this.
Right.
But altogether, what intention this person has here, I cannot say. You understand? So it's more than just the language, it's the intention. And that's how you can tell whether somebody's translation, so forth, or correct. Because when you read the translation, you can see what the person has understood. Because you can translate the meaning of the words, because you can look them up in the dictionary. If you read Devanagari, you look at the word, you go to the dictionary, you look up the word. Right? But then you need to see the commentary to see what was the intention of that word. Because like you said, you can take the word and break it down into different constructions. Especially if you have a word that's a samas. Samas means like when there's several Sanskrit words connected together. You can reconstruct those and come up with all. Shankaracharya came up with the Mayavadi philosophy. You understand? So you have to study yourself to understand what the Goswamis have said, what everything is, what Gurudev has told. Then you look at anybody's Sanskrit translation, whatever, and you have some idea. Because there's one devotee who had very good intentions. He was translating Sandarbhas many years ago. Very good intentions, but you could see conceptually he still had the ideas that were brought about from what we understood at that time. Was what we understood at that time. On to the actual intent of the verse. Right? Like if you hear in Paramatma Sandarbha, Eka Rupa Swarupa Bhak. So if you translate the words, Ek means one, Rup means right? So Eka Rupa Swarupa Bhak. The Jiva has one Swarup and he's situated in that. That could be one translation. Was that the intent of Jiva Goswami Pad here? Wasn't. Ek Rup. Every Jiva, because he mentions it later on, is Prati Kshetra, means everybody's an individual. So each soul is an individual. And Ek Rup means they are uniform. You understand? Swarup here doesn't mean a siddha deha. Swarup also in Sanskrit means nature. So they always remain situated in spiritual nature because the jiva cannot become material. The jiva can't become the material elements and so forth. You understand that? The jiva can identify with it, but you can't become that because the atma is composed of its own elements. So the spiritual soul can't become the material. If it was situated in its swarup, meaning siddha swarup, you wouldn't be in Maya. You know? So you have to understand the intention of the writer and look at their commentary and so forth and so on.
That's diving deep.
No, it is what it is. That's okay. That's what he meant to write and so forth, and that's what the meaning of this is, right? Because then you start to look at things in context. Like, we're still looking at this closely. The verse that Prem had quoted here, right, was because this verse has been under like scrutiny for so long. Like Kunta Bhagavato Jyotiyam Shabhuta. This is the verse 10 in Priti Sandarbha. And it says that every member is describing every jiva has a Vaikuntha Murti Roop that's there, etc. like that. So, but that comes in the section of Priti Sandarbha on the 4 kinds of liberation. So when he's talking about Sarupya Mukti, he describes that anybody who wants to attain a form like Narayan, there's unlimited of these forms that one is attained, one gets one of those forms. Right? But at the same time, he's correct because he's saying that when you go to spiritual world, you also get a form. And Vaikuntha here doesn't mean just Vaikuntha Lok Narayan. The entire spiritual world is also called Vaikuntha. And Gurudev has said this also. So that's why his statement is factual, because Gurudev has also said Vaikuntha doesn't just mean Narayan Lok Vaikuntha. Ayodhya, Dwarka, Mathura, Brat, all are considered Vaikuntha. It's the highest place of Vaikuntha. Now, then the question came, but now, that roop that's obtained, right? It will not be a Vaikuntha roop like Narayan. So here, Vaikuntha Shabhagavato Jyotiyam Sarupa, Vaikuntha Loka Shobha, Anantamurtis, means also a Braj roop will be obtained. So he was explaining that the Braj Parikar roops are manifested from Sandini Shakti from Baladev. Imagine. And that their existence must also be there as it gets technical, as a Vaibhav of Baladev Prabhu. Anyway, it's a bit
That's
difficult.
when by deep, it just gets so technical.
Yeah, it would be like a Vaibhav there, just like the ones in Vaikuntha, there must be one there. But then when Gurudev was explaining, he was explaining it exists like a potentiality that becomes realized. Because it's very difficult, because the transcendental substance can't be translated into Prakat Bhasha, means material language. So you're trying to take a concept that exists spiritually and make it materially digestible. And as soon as you do that, all of the material impressions about those things come up. Oh, well, if it's a form here, it's a form there. Do I have this one there? And all those kind of considerations come. That's why at the end of the 15th chapter of Jayavardhana, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, listen, I've told you all these things to give an indication. Try to realize it by doing bhajan. Because even if I told you, you would not understand it. Then praying, we were laughing in the room back there, because he was showing me the verses that he was quoting, and he was showing me the commentary. And in the commentary, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's the funniest thing, because they write, listen, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary said, listen, you know what? I'm going to try to explain this to you, but you're not going to understand it. That's what the commentary said. It was so funny. So we were both looking at it and laughing, because it was like he was saying, listen, like I'm duty bound to try to explain it to you, but you're not going to understand it. And it was both of them, Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baladev and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they translated said the same thing. Listen, I'm going to explain this to you, but you're not going to understand it. Lalita? I'm going to get ready to end.
Bhaktisiddhanta wrote that article on that, there were so many scholars that could quote every single verse of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but they didn't understand it all. So just by memorization, you can know every single verse and do everything by memory, but if you're not getting the mercy that descends from the Guru Parapadma, then it's not going to come, because ultimately there has to be freedom from any type of pratishta.
How will we know? The thing is, how will we know if somebody's getting the mercy or not? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur knew. How did he know? Not just humility, but how did Bhaktivinoda Thakur know that the followers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who they mostly means Bhadralok. Bhadralok was like a group of, they were kind of trained by the British and everything. They were scholars, academically as well and everything else. And they liked Bhaktivinoda Thakur because he had status in society. They were called the Bhadralok. And they followed him and they followed his teachings and everything, and they memorized them. They could quote all these things, everything. But Bhaktisiddhanta said that they don't have the slightest idea, because they didn't understand the conception.
And unless you have someone to give you that conception, you won't be able to get it.
That's how you can tell. That's how you can tell the difference between somebody maybe quoting thousands of verses. They may also have conception and mood. That will be the indication Gurudev is giving mercy there. Understand? Somebody also could quote. I know people like can quote verses for days, but don't have the conception at all. I heard somebody the other day. This person actually went to university, became a Sanskrit scholar, everything else, quotes unlimited verse, everything, says we fell out of the spiritual world. So should I think Prabhupada's mercy was bestowed here? No.
It's now coming. It's now coming.
It's going to take some time, because also, if you think that everybody else, because, and I'm only repeating this, I'm not repeating any name anything, but the person on one thing that I was sent, they're saying, and I don't know how all these people could have missed it. They can't read simple English, etc., blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. So august stalwart disciples like Gogovinda Maharaj or the Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, even right now, Bhanu Swami, others who both have studied Sanskrit language and translate, they didn't catch it, but you caught it. Nonsense. And then out of 18,000 verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, 400,000 verses of Jiva Goswami, hundreds of thousands of verses of all of our acharyas and things. You came up with 2 verses that say, out of Bhagavatam, that say we fell out of the spiritual world? And then when you read the purport of those verses, it says it's an allegory because it's the story of Narada Muni speaking to Maharaj Prachinabhari about the story of Paranjan Maharaj. But you're an eminent scholar. You understand? So that's different. Somebody who has, and my sort of intensity here about that is the potential mood of aparat to so many followers and disciples of Prabhupada. This is a pride. I caught it. What's wrong with these people? They didn't understand? Yeah, come on, yeah. On the other hand, if you will see somebody, I'm going to give the example, like in the case of Prem. I've known him since almost the beginning, right? What he is doing is no way, unless it's the mercy of Gurudev. Even if something personally, now that, I've known him, I know his wife, everything else. I know his son-in-law, so forth, to be impeccable, everything in terms of that, right? But even if something was to happen, what's happening in the way he's being used, that's Srila Gurudev. Conception-wise, because it's not a matter of the information. It's not that he's just has a great memory. We can look at external like that. The empowerment of the conception and everything embedded there, right? Also, by association. If you go back and you look at all the lectures of Sri Chutalal Bhatt for years and years, how much Prem has garnered from having that kind of sadhu sangha, having the sangha of Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj. And he does this with all of his own disciples, everything, on a regular basis. If you look so many times where you find Prem, and every time Prem says, oh, come up, Hari Prabhu, you have to meet this so-and-so. You have to meet so-and-so. You have to meet the Mahant of Jagannath Puri. You have to, come here, Chutalal Bhatt directly, etc. You understand? So when you see that, you know, right, that the content, the personality is everybody's individual personality. How you like to sing, what mood you like to sing, all these things. But the nature of the substance of the empowerment, that is a symptom of Guru Sadhu Kripa. Unquestionably. And that's why I told the Charlie Parker story the other day. Of course, the Chutananda knows Charlie Parker, but I'll just quickly, because we have to do the RT. There was a really great musician, a saxophone player named Charlie Parker. He was exceptional, but he had a deep drug problem. And what he used to do was he would get saxophones that would be given to him because everybody admired him, but then he would pawn the saxophone to get money for drugs. So once, one venue, one club, jazz club, gave him audition to have a running show there so he would always have money. So he had a wonderful saxophone and everything, but the drug habit overcame him, and the day of the show, he pawned that saxophone for drugs. So now his opportunity to make money on an ongoing basis was being hampered. So he thought, well, I have many, many friends, and somebody will lend me a saxophone so I could do the show, then I'll get on my feet and so forth. But all of the people then said, listen, here's our opportunity to get that gig. So nobody would lend him a saxophone because they were all thinking, if he doesn't make it, one of us will get that show. So he was like, what should I do? What should I do? So eventually one lady who had some faith in him and everything, she went and she bought a toy saxophone because she didn't know the difference between, so she bought a kind of replica toy saxophone and came and she gave it to him, right? So he took his chances. He went to the performance and played on a toy saxophone and blew everybody away. You understand? So the story here is that actually when inspiration, in his case inspiration, but here in our case it's how our Guru Varga uses you. Even if you are this, that, lusty, bum, this, everything, if Gurudev wants to use you, they can take a toy saxophone and make the most beautiful music. So we should always see, wherever we hear Hari Katha, anything, if we hear the conceptions properly, we should think, well, my Guru Parapadma is present here. That's why Gurudev told me in North Carolina, who's speaking? I'm speaking. Because if you think this person is speaking, and even though it's very wonderful, everything, if that person is speaking, that means when your turn to speak comes, you'll think I'm speaking. Because you can't divorce the two things. So either you recognize Gurudev is always speaking in these circumstances, and where there's misconception, that can't be Gurudev. So if you find the misconception, then you could say, oh, here's the flaw in this Harikatha. That there's some apasiddhanta, there's some misconception here. No matter how eloquent it is or anything.
And history has proof, Prabhu.
History has proof.
Yeah, we can see many personalities like this. Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada has utilized.
Yep.
And we can see how many devotees came through them.
Yeah.
But it was actually Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev doing all those things.
Yeah.
I just heard a story that in the Boston Temple in the early days, there was a goofy guy, they just called him Crazy Pete. And he would sit in the hallway. And it wasn't so nice because new people, the guests and others would have to step over him. He'd keep his feet out or he'd sleep. And then some years went by and he was seen again in LA, and that was Kushakrata. Translated.
He's the one who translated a whole bunch of books from Bengali and Sanskrit.
Wow.
It was his translation I was talking about earlier. Still good. Alright, Dhanavad Pranam, Jai Shri Shri, Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai, Shri Mahaprabhu Shri Gurudev Ki Jai.
Yasomati Nandana Prajavarana Yasomati Nandana
Shiva Hare Hare
Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Agilai. Jainita Lil Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Bhakti Nine Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jainita Lil Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Bhakti Nine Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jainita Lil Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Bhakti Nine Maharaj ki jai. Krishna Prabhu Trai ki jai. Nitya Lila Vishnu Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Bhakti Vinay Bharti Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Lila Vishnu Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Gaur Govind Swami Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Lila Vishnu Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Bhakti Vinay Swami Maharaj Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Lila Vishnu Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Srila Charikesh Srila Bhakti Pragankesh Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Lila Vishnu Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur Parikar ki jai. Srila Vishnu Pada Paramamsa Sutara Satasisima Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur Gurimat Samstapkachar Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gokshara Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Satyam Goswami Sachino Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Vaishnava Sava Goma Jagannath Swami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Vedanta Chai Baladev Guru ki jai. Srila Sikh Srila Vishnu Chakmati Thakur ki jai. Srila Srinivasam Bujai ki jai. Krishna Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Sri Rup Shri Shri Siddhartha Jiva Gopal Goswami Sahab Goswami ki jai. Sarup Damodar Ramananda Hari Gopal Sarvini ki jai. Shri Nama Acharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Puripar Marvin Puripar ki jai. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chalan Shri Vidyadhara Sri Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai. Shri Goa Mandal Bhumi ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopi Radha Shri Radha ki jai. Shri Mukunda Radha Kunjamana Ganga Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Niti Visakasta Sakhi jai. Vishwati Ramana Manjari ki jai. Jo Mayapur Masi Devi ki jai. Shri Gopishwa Mahadev ki jai. Shri Shetamanu ki jai. Jangat Padeshwar Shri Sanju ki jai. Bhakti Vidhina Sanshina Singh Bhagwan ki jai. Bhakti Davaha Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Sarodham Chara Samaracharya ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai. Shri Keshav Ji Gauri Mat ki jai. Shri Sakam Smo ki jai. Nant Madhya Shri Vili Jai Nitai Gaur
Radha Govinda ki jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani ki jai.
So Haribol, I got a really amazing announcement to make. Yay! So first of all, we want to thank Mukunda Prabhu. Another announcement is that in May we're going to have the fortune to have Sripad Bhakti Swarup Sridhar Goswami Maharaj come, and he's going to be giving a very special Harikatha. It's going to be Bhagavad Saptaha. So it's going to be 7 days. He's going to be speaking here. So from May 24th to May the 30th is going to be Bhagavad Saptaha. So mark your calendars. Please make time. If you have not heard Maharaj speak, Bhagavad Saptaha is out of this world. He's done it many years in Europe, in Croatia and Switzerland. Many devotees come. If you don't know Bhakti Srila Maharaj, he's a disciple of Bhakti Vivek Goswami Maharaj. And he's a very high-class speaker. When he comes to Bhagavad Saptaha, he's amazing. So please mark your calendars. Make sure you come to this. It's going to be like morning slots of Harikatha, so 3 hours, and then a break, and then there's going to be another 3 hours of Harikatha after that, so about 6 hours. Maharaj can go for more hours, but 24th to the 30th.
Yeah, but don't wait till then to come into service and be a part of the community here.
So we're going to organize it. Probably going to happen at the Women's Center, because we're expecting about 200 plus devotees to come. So it's going to be very, very nice. So please,
Main Street.
Main Street. It's right here on Main Street, just down the road. That when Prem Prajapati was here, it was almost 80 devotees here, so it was like 2 packs. So 200 devotees. This is going to be the last stop of his tour. So there's going to be probably a lot of devotees coming with him. So we expect 200. So if anybody wants to help out and render some service, we need people to host devotees when they come. And we need people to help with cooking, because we're going to be 200 devotees. Also, the cleaning is gonna be at the women's center, so we're gonna decorate very nicely. So again, it's gonna be a jagya also to start the kata, and then a jagya when we finish. So it's gonna be very focused. Anybody wants to more information about it, come see me and try to help. Thank you. Huh? Oh, we're gonna put a flyer outside, so if you can share with your friends. Yeah.
And then online.
Yes.
So for helping me with this is you.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to